started. I'm Cameron John. I run the product marketing team. We are here to dig as deep as you guys want to go. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day. What I'll say about questions is there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you have it in your head, someone else does too. Please don't be shy. We'll get you your answers. And we want this to be interactive. We're going to take you through a couple of key workflows today, but we want this to be interactive. So what I'll say is make sure you have Houzz Pro up in a separate tab on your screen so you can click along and follow us. If you're just watching the show, that's fine, but the information will stick much better when you do it in your account on your projects. So Elise, I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll get going.
Great. Thanks, Cameron. Well, again, my name's Elise Bergen. I've been with Houzz for almost 10 years now. So just very exciting to see all the changes and offerings that we have for our pro community. I am one of our product support managers, so work very closely with my team on technical questions or issues or things you all need help with. So I'm very excited to talk a little bit more about Houzz Pro today and getting started with some of our key features. What you're seeing on the screen right now is one of my projects. So we're going to use mostly throughout the demo today. And like Cameron said, any questions you have, please ask them. Questions are welcome and they're wonderful ways to learn. And again, to echo Cameron, I highly encourage you guys following along in your accounts. And that definitely helps this retention of information because we're going to cover a lot today. Okay. So to start us off, before we dive into our first feature, which is estimates, I wanted to just send a couple of reminders on some tools that you have in your Houzz Pro account. So down here underneath the profile picture, this is some information on your account, like your profile setup, account info, going to houzz.com if needed. A lot of great resources here, but right above that, under this question mark icon, is a ton of help resources for you. So the help center is linked here. Also, if you open this up, it's organized by feature. Also have additional features down here outside of our main features and video tutorials and upcoming and past webinars. So great place to look for on-demand learning videos available for you. Underneath, you also have our technical support inbound phone line. So you can call us Monday through Friday. You can submit a support ticket through your account. So if you want to open a case with the support team, that's here as well. Any events coming up, our blog. We also have our Houzz Pro certification. So if you're looking to make sure you're completing all the things you need to get you started on the right foot with Houzz Pro, this is a fantastic page to visit. It'll give you the tasks that you need to complete, your status, and what you need to do next to be certified. And you get this nice little badge within Houzz Pro as well. And then lastly, any training. There's a ton of resources. Of course, my team is available to help via cases, calling us, or through chat, but there also are a ton of different elements in here, like getting started, financial documents, the floor planner, and then again, the certification, additional training, and even our blog and upcoming events. So a lot of really useful resources as you're getting started, or just to continue to brush up on our features and new releases through Houzz Pro. Okay. So starting off from a project, just to go back to the Houzz Pro homepage really quick, when you first sign into Houzz Pro, this is the page you're going to see, which has your open projects. You can reorganize these as well, your to-do list, financial documents, additional resources here on the right. But to access your projects, you can do so through one of these quick links or just hover over your project tab. And this will show you right now, I'm looking at my open, in progress, done, or no status projects. You can also look at any that you've closed or all of them. But for today, we are going to be spending time with my client, Bob Ross, and looking at his whole home remodel project. You're going to see the outline of the project here on the left-hand side, going from the planning phase, anything from estimates, which was where we're going to start, takeoffs, 3D, the design tools here from mood boards to selections. We're also going to talk about bids today, and then managing the project from sharing files and photos, the schedule, tasks, sharing things with your client via the client dashboard, daily logs to log notes of what happened on the job site that day, time and expense, and then all your financial documents. So we're going to be spending, again, some time going through estimates first, and then I'll kind of take you through the flow of our main topics for today. All right, so starting with estimates. When I click into our estimate tool, I have all these estimates that I've sent out previously. You can see all the different statuses, the payment due, the totals, the document code, We're going to start by building one from scratch here. So from scratch is the first option. And that will open up this nice, beautiful estimate where you have all your company details, your client information. And if you hover over each of these, you can easily click on the pencil and edit these details. I know some pros that we've worked with ask, how can we hide either this address and add a custom one or custom fields? You can simply click the I to hide any of these fields and then add another field. And we have some suggestions in here, but you can also add a custom field by typing it in and hit enter, and that will save it for you and then add the value. So if you want to adjust anything like that, you're able to. Here's your client details and your document information. So you can fill those out per document, but it will apply to every doc based on what is in your business document settings here under the settings menu. All right, the date is automatically going to populate with today's date, which is the 8th. You can add the due date. Let's say I would like my client to review and sign this in the next week. So let's say next Tuesday, the 15th. The status is draft. These can also be changed manually, but they will change as you send the document out and progress is made on the document automatically. So like I said, we're starting from scratch. So it's a blank estimate. You can customize the columns here, change which ones are showing. You can add custom columns, show images for anything you're adding. Again, up to you how you customize your document. You can save that. And then to add items, we can go over here to this add items black button and look from my parts list or create a brand new custom item. Maybe it's something completely new. So let's look at from parts list. You have your items here, which are the items that come built in the US Build software that you sign up for. We go back. We're going to talk about assemblies briefly as well, but you have any assemblies that you've created. If you're on our Pro SKU or above, you can save your assemblies in the parts and categories library, as well as use it in takeoff. So we're going to talk about takeoffs today as well. Your catalog, which again is from our pre-built parts list. Selections. So I don't think selections is covered in today's session. It's probably covered in another session this week. But if you're able to use the clipper with Houzz Pro, you can clip items from various sites, save them to your library in Houzz Pro, and they're going to end up in your selections library through a document, as well as on a selection board. So I'm sure the next person covering the next session will go over that in more detail, but this is where you access it. And I can see what's been clipped specifically to Bob Ross's project or everything that I've clipped, whether it's categorized or not. They're all in here for items that I've sourced throughout the internet on different sites, including houzz.com. Templates are here as well. So you have your system templates that are available and any templates you might have saved, because the beauty of an estimate is once I have done all the work here, I can go up to the actions menu and save this as a template. So let's say this is for the kitchen section of this whole home remodel. I can do all the work up front. It's a little legwork up front, but then you save it and can use it as a template later. You can also merge estimates, archive, download tear sheets from here. So a lot of other functionality within this actions menu on an estimate. So let's add a couple items. Let's go back to my parts list. I'm going to do this from, let's go from our templates and let's choose the kitchen and bathroom option. And I'm going to add all 31 of these. You can also add just a few. It's up to you, but I'm going to add all of these. Then click out of here. And now, because I chose to show an image, if there are any photos attached to the product, they'll show here. But again, you can hide those as well. I'm going to see our unit, the quantity, and again, these can all be customized. You can add a custom unit type as well. Material and labor. I will note we made a change recently. So if you see something slightly different with your material, labor, and cost columns, we did change it to just having the cost column. So you might notice this slightly different in your account, but in my version, I have material and labor separated and cost showing the total cost if there is a cost for material as well. The markup, any tax, so you can show if it's taxable or not. And then at the very bottom, it's a little bit longer, so bear with me. Here's the total here, your tax rate. If you're giving them any sort of discount, you can add that in. You can also rename this, maybe like customer discount or however you choose to name that. There's your total. And it's going to set up. Initially, I had a deposit on this estimate, and then it's giving me the other half of the payment schedule, which is the 70% here. 70/30 is how it's split, but you can change these. Let's say I wanted it to be a 50% instead of 30%, and click on that. And I'm just going to need to change this one also, so it's not more than the total of the document, and that will change the totals that are due. You can also create more scheduled payments on here. Payment 3, payment 4, totally up to you. You can add the dates. You can log a payment. If you're getting paid online, which we're going to talk about today as well, the payment, when it comes through, will automatically mark that payment as paid on the document, so you don't have to do anything there. But if your client happens to pay you with a check, cash, Venmo, anything outside of a credit card or ACH payment, you can log the payment manually. If you have a credit on the project, you can apply that towards the total. You can also apply any retainers. If you happen to have a retainer that you logged for this project, they paid you up front, similar to a deposit, you can log that as well. Or you have these other options down here. So let's say they paid me with a check. I do want to send a receipt to my client so I can check this off, the date they paid today. And then the reference number is automatically generated, but it's editable. So if you want to do something custom in here, you can. I'm not going to mark that as paid just because I want to show you our progressive invoicing in a moment. But that is a great way to set up your payment schedule on an estimate. Any questions so far?
Okay. Nothing's coming through that I can't answer. But again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat and I'll make sure to get them answered or get them in front of Elise so she can show you how to do it.
Awesome. Okay. Now, if we go back to the project, just to show you the other ways you can create an estimate, and we're going to talk about AI in just a second. AI is the buzzword of the year, and we are definitely incorporating that into Houzz Pro as well. You can upload an estimate. So if you have a PDF version of an estimate that you normally send, you can upload that and send that over to your client, but please note that you can't make edits to the PDF because it's not an editable document within Houzz Pro, but you do have that option if you would like to use that. And then you can use any of our templates, which again, if you save any estimates as a template, they'll be available here, or you can use any of our preloaded system templates that are here as well. If you click Manage Templates, that will take you over to under Company. You'll see templates here and parts and categories, which I'll go to that section in just a second. You can see the Houzz Pro templates and then any that you've saved. Something I do want to water drop that's very exciting is we're working on a catalog revamp to integrate with a big supplier, and that should be coming sometime either this quarter or beginning of next year. So look for updates on our pro release page. There's going to be a lot of buzz around our catalog revamp, which we're very excited about. So more to come for your templates and for our parts and categories list. And if I go back to Company and then parts and categories, this is where we'll see, again, all of this system parts and categories and services that are added in for you, but you'll also be able to see any items that you create, any that you marked as a favorite just by starring it. So if you have some that you use often, and then you'll also see any planning. Again, these are all system generated items in here, but you can import as well. Super helpful if you have a CSV or Excel file of different parts or products or services that you use often in your construction projects. You only need to upload the Excel or CSV file, and you can, if you have it in a different format, you normally are able to convert it. And 2 fields are required: the name of the product. So let's say 2x4 piece of lumber. It has examples here as well. And the category. We're going to talk about assemblies today too, and categorizing is so important if you're using our budget feature and assemblies. I highly recommend any product that you add into Houzz Pro, make sure that it's categorized because it's only going to help you as you're using those other features. And that could be, for example, bathroom, plumbing, exterior, whatever that product or service falls under as far as category. And then when you upload, there's a help article here too. But you should be able to upload as long as you have these things included. And if you need assistance, if there's any errors, it'll tell you on the next page what those errors are. But really easy to import your catalog into Houzz Pro as well. And of course, you can create a new item from scratch if you have something custom, which this is similar to what we saw on the estimate as well. Okay, let's get back on the estimate train here. So if we go back to our project and we go to that estimate we were working on right here at the top. All right, let's say this looks good, or we want to add an assembly, because assemblies you can do right from a document or you can save it in your library. So from an assembly, or excuse me, from an estimate, there's this create assembly option. What that will do is categorize, and again, that's why I say categorize your products and services and parts and categories, because it helps when you're using these other features. For example, the group or the assembly is preliminaries, and these are all included in that. Demolition, carpentry. So it's categorizing your estimate according to what you want to show to the client. And I'll show you an assembly that I made as well. Go back to my assemblies here under company. I just want to show you some that I've made already. To create an assembly, you would come here and you'll be able to add the name. Again, please make sure you do add a category as well. Description, the unit, you can upload images, and then add all the items that are within that assembly. So one of our newer features that's very widely used by a lot of our build professionals. I'll just delete that one for now since I didn't add anything there. But let's take, for example, my door assembly. This is everything that's included in installing a new door for my client. This is one I've created in the past, but the name of it I called door assembly. The category I chose was doors. I just put a quick description in here, but you have rich text editing, so you can add more details, bulleted lists, numbered lists, links, and things like that. Pieces, and then I just added a quick cover image to show on any document I add this to. And here are all the items that are included in an assembly: the door frame, a doorknob, the varnish, and then the labor to install the door. Now, thing to keep in mind for assemblies is this is looking at one. So you always want to have the quantity as one. And then when you add it into your estimate, you can adjust the quantity to say you have 4 doors that you're actually putting in the client's home and not just one. So for labor, knowing how many hours it's going to take you to install one door is what I have here is 8 hours. Enter all the costs here. And then if you have a markup, you can include that as well. And then you save that assembly. So again, it's saved to your assemblies library. Here I have 2, one for framing and one for the door. Then you can use them, again, if you're on our Pro SKU or above, you can use these in, save them to your library, use them in estimates, as well as in our takeoff tool.
So at least there's a good question that sort of falls into exactly what you're talking about from Laura about materials and labor. So if you go back to an estimate with some line items in it, is there a way to show materials and labor separately, or is it just either or inside a single line item? So
yes,
separate lines for materials, separate lines for labor.
Yes. So my account is showing a little bit of an older version before we made that change of showing material and labor separately. But in any new version of Houzz Pro from a couple months back to now, it will just have the cost column. So you can create a custom column, but it would be a text field. It's not like a dollar amount that you can enter for like adding the price. So you can do that just to show that there is labor for that particular cost, or you can build an assembly that, like I had for the doors, which I'm going to add here as well. So you can see what this looks like on an estimate. I'm just typing into the very bottom door assembly. There it is right there. And it's right at the top. There's my photo. So I include labor here and I have how much it costs. But again, this is not a great example because it's showing both columns, but in the cost version that I was talking about, it would just show the one cost for this entire assembly. These are all hidden. You can show these if you'd like, but most of the time I find my professionals like to not show what's in the assembly and then associate how many are needed here. So the example I used was 4. Save that, and then it'll automatically calculate all of these to 4. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, exactly. It answered the question. So Jeff's follow-up was, how do I know what version I'm on? Jeff, if you started in the last couple of months, you'll have the new version. And if you didn't, you just refresh and you'll get the newest version.
Yeah.
Like
You'll
every time you
see,
start Houzz Pro, you'll get the newest, best stuff we have.
yes. You'll see the cost column versus material and labor. That's the easiest way to determine that. Okay. All right, let's do some more functionality on this estimate here. So if you send this to your client, you can preview this and see what it will look like to them. So like we were talking about for doors, I chose to hide all the sub items underneath the assembly. So they're not showing here, they're just showing the total and the total of what it's gonna cost for 4 doors being installed into my client's house. I also have this new assembly, which I can delete. But the big call out here is looking at the settings of what your client can actually see. So pricing wise, do you not want to show the detailed pricing? You can remove that. Do you not want to show the breakdown? You can remove that. Also, category pricing. So it is very customizable what pricing you're showing on an estimate. You can also dictate for columns what you're showing, the numbering. So like this numbering system here on the side, you can take that out if you don't like that. Unit quantity, again, cost will be the only option here if you don't have the material labor columns, markup, tax, all of this is up to you what you decide to show to your client. Images and descriptions, if you don't have a ton of items with images, I recommend maybe just turning that off, but you can keep the descriptions so they can see those. We offer a QR code so they can pay now by scanning that. If you don't want that, you can turn that off as well. And then approval by line item and e-signature. Definitely recommend keeping e-signature on. So much easier to approve something electronically than having to print it out, physically sign it, and send it back to you. And then approve per line item. We'll add this X and check mark next to each item. And they can approve these or approve it as a whole, up to you. And then you can share the link by copying here, or you can send this right over to your client. It's going to give you this pop-up where you can CC maybe your project manager or another team member. You can add your client's email here, maybe their husband or wife you can add on as well. And then you can customize this message. This is what the email will look like. And if you choose to do both email and text, there's the text message as well. This needs to be checked in order to edit this, but you do have the ability to update what that copy says, and you can attach the PDF in the email notification if you prefer as well. So super easy way to get these out to your client and quickly.
Great.
Okay.
Are we going to cover the clipper at all here today?
We didn't have selections on the list, but I can. If that's a question that's being asked, I'm happy to show that really quick.
I think I can handle it. It's a question from Laura. She was just not sure where to find the library items that she clipped. So maybe just show her where library is. I think that'll answer it. So she has the clipper,
Yes.
clipped a bunch of stuff, couldn't find those things.
Yes, good call out. So under the parts and categories list, the items that you've clipped will not be in this catalog right now. Like I mentioned, we're doing a catalog revamp. We're currently working on it. Our product team's working very hard to get that done for us in the next few months. So I think that's part of it. But for now, any item you clip will be available in 2 places. So I'll go back to the project really quick. One is going to be in your selection boards. So if we go to that section, and I'll just look at a board that I have open right now. Over here on the right-hand side, there's your selections library. So you can add any items that you've clipped. These are ones that I've clipped in my history of using this account. The other place you can go is back to the project. And then let's go back to that estimate we were working on. So we can go to add items here on the right-hand side, and then from parts list and your selection library here. And again, you can look at only items you clip to that specific project or every item that you've clipped in the history of using your Houzz Pro account. So TBD on being in the parts and categories library, but these are the 2 places you can find it today. Good question. Okay. I'm going to go back to this estimate and approve this because you have the ability to approve this as well. So if you get the verbal okay from your client, go ahead and approve it. I'm just going to approve the whole thing. You can also approve by line item if you prefer. All right. And then once this is approved, I also brought up this help article, which I think is very useful. If you're in the help center, just search recommended document flow and this will come up. It recommends the entire flow throughout Houzz Pro, from using the clipper to using selections, our design tools, to creating an estimate, to then turning it into an invoice. So there's a lot of like the path you can take through Houzz Pro to have all your documents connected and easily just flow through the project with the flow that we've established. So this help article is very, very useful. If you haven't checked it out yet, just search it in our help center. Okay, now that this is approved, I want to show you how to do progressive invoicing, because one, we set up a payment schedule down here, which I'm going to actually delete. So I'll show you how to update a document once it's been approved. You go up to actions and then reopen for editing. So you can do this if the document has not been paid yet. It'll just tell you that the client will need to reapprove it again. So confirm, and that will take it back to draft status. And I'm going to go down here and I'm actually going to delete these payments because I want to show you progressive invoicing. You can set up a payment schedule. You can do progressive invoicing. It's really up to you and your preference, but I want to, just for sake of conversation, be able to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to approve this again. And now that it's approved, I'm able to create an invoice for this estimate. Now with your projects, they're likely longer, they take longer, they're bigger estimates, there's more involved, especially if it's a full home remodel like this project, or a custom home, or something that's just going to take longer than your simple door installation. So to create an invoice, you can either select the items from these checkboxes on the left, or you can create invoice. And here is the first module it's going to show you. Do you want to do the remaining balance, which is the total, or by percentage? So I actually want to do 33% of this estimate today, and I'll break up the other chunks later in the project. So you can type that in by percentage, create invoice, and that's going to create our invoice. And again, the reason I mentioned the document flow is now you have the linked estimate here, so you can continuously reference this, and you can see that it's now partially invoiced because I've invoiced a third of that document. Now it's showing me the percentage that's being invoiced here of everything on this invoice from that original estimate. And it will include at the bottom what the total is, again, tax rate, if you're giving any discount, markup, and there's the one payment. You can schedule additional payments beyond this, but again, that is the point of progressive invoicing, is to be able to go back to that same estimate again and again, and then invoice throughout the project as you're ready to collect additional payments from your client. So if we go back to that estimate here, I'll show that it's partially invoiced, and that again, these items are all approved, but it's 33% invoiced. So let's say the client changes their mind and they're like, you know what, let's just pay the rest of that estimate now. I have the funds, we can move forward with paying the rest for this job. You can create the invoice again, and instead of another third, I would just do either the remaining balance, which is the rest of it, or again, you can break it up by percentage if they decided to pay maybe 50% left on the document. You can do that as well. I'm just going to do that example that I said of paying the rest, and that will create the second invoice for me. And now on the second invoice, which again, you can rename these as well if you choose to have a naming convention that's unique to your business, you can update these. And the linked documents here are now going to show the first invoice that we made, which is in draft status, and then the estimate that is fully invoiced now, which is the original estimate. All right, moving right along. So for this estimate, one other thing that I didn't mention was the, oh yeah.
Let me stop you there, Elise. There's a couple of questions from Dan and from Scott in the audience. I think we covered this, but let's just be explicit since we have time. How do you log a cash payment from a client? Can you show us how to do the log an offline payment?
Absolutely. Let me go back to my project here. And if we go to those two invoices we were just working on.
And while you're in there, Scott wanted to know about progress payments. How do you log that part too?
Yeah, so progress payments, I would use the progressive invoicing I was just showing, continuing to go back to the same estimate and again, why categorizing is really important, especially on a document, is to go and look at each category and say, okay, is this like phase one? I should invoice for this, and just select those items. So I can do another example showing, instead of invoicing the whole document, doing it by pieces. I'll do that in just a sec. But to answer the first question on
one other request from the floor is, let's talk slower.
Okay.
Let's not talk at 100 miles an hour. Let's talk at 55 miles an hour. So we'll drive the speed limit at least.
Yep. We have a lot to cover, so I'll try to go a little bit slower while still getting through everything. Okay, so logging a cash payment, you go to log payment. Instead of doing any of these other options, there's a cash option right here. And then again, you can send a receipt if you choose to do that. Add the custom reference number, click done, and that will log that payment on this invoice. And because we only had this one payment and it was paid 100%, you see the status is paid here. And if I scroll up to the top, it's going to be fully paid on this invoice as well. Okay, I want to get to that second question on, it's progressive invoicing, but a different way that you can do it. Let me just create a new estimate really quick. I'll do it from scratch just to add a couple items for this example. So you can either, again, go to the parts list or create a new part or add directly from here. Just going to add a couple random things. Okay, let's say these are everything I need for this estimate. Again, your client can approve this, and these call outs here with these beautiful stars. You have automations on estimates and documents in general in Houzz Pro, which remind remind your client to sign it, it's overdue, sending them a thank you message. So there's some nice automations you can set up on a document for yourself and client reminders also. It's just a quick call out there. Okay, I'm going to approve this. All right, so to answer that other question regarding invoicing, so let's say I only wanted to invoice for this section right here that's empty. Again, categorization is important. So pretend that is categorized, but I can check the title and then come up to create invoice. And this doesn't have an amount, but it has, if it had an amount on those line items, it would show here, and I can do the remaining balance, or I can do by percentage for just this segment of the estimate. So maybe I want to do 50% instead of 100. I'm going to use the other one as an example since there's price there. Create invoice, and then by percentage, do 50%. And there you go. It'll have that one item, which again is only one part of that original estimate. That's 50% invoiced. So if we go back to the estimate that's linked here, the status will still be partially invoiced because the whole thing has not been invoiced yet. And it shows that 0% of this section have been invoiced, but 50% of this section have been invoiced. So same method with progressive invoicing, just the first item that I did was the entire invoice and doing that by percentage. This is doing part of the estimate and doing that as a progressive invoicing. Okay. The one other thing on estimates I wanted to mention before we move on, it's hard for me to demo this because it's through the Houzz Pro app, but there is a wonderful help article on how we integrate AI with our estimates. And AI is integrated in several different parts of Houzz Pro, but specifically for estimates, I'll show you a screenshot here. When you are on your Houzz Pro app, you'll see this cute little automate button. This is our AI feature. So anytime you see automate, it's an AI functionality within Houzz Pro. All you have to do is click on that button when you're using the app. It's going to give you this page that allows you to do several different things. Creating new notes, how can I add team members? So searching our help center, managing leads and clients, create a new lead for Zoe Sullivan with this address. Show me more. How can we assist with 3D scans, directions, things like that? You tap here to talk. It'll give you this prompt, which will light up. You just need to make sure your microphone has access to the Houzz Pro app. You can also type it in if needed, but talking works really well. And the example that I did the other day was, please create an estimate for Bob Ross project, $5,000 for flooring installation. It did that. It wrapped everything up on the app. It'll give you, again, mood board is another example, but it'll give you the next step in the app telling you that it's been created. And then once you go to your Houzz Pro estimates for that project, you'll see that it's been created for that amount for that particular service. So really cool on the go way to do estimates. I know a lot of you are out in the field. I'm not always sitting at your computer in the office. So this is a great way to incorporate brand new technology into the Houzz Pro software. And again, the article, if you search automate or AI, this article should come up, and there's some great voice commands like open my camera, upload files, clock in and out for our stopwatch feature, navigate the site, lots of different functionality you have with this tool. Okay, I'm going to switch gears and go over to our bids, which is one of our newest features of Houzz Pro. Let me close some of these. All right, so you can access bids from a couple places. From your project is where I would start. You go back to Bob Ross's project here. And bids is going to be right here in this left-hand menu underneath the planning phase. Bids is a fantastic way to send out bids for your job to your subcontractors, get those back in an organized way, and really stay on top of who's submitted a bid, who hasn't yet. If you have multiple bidders, you can add those in. So I have two that I've done before. I'll do one from scratch, but just so you can see one completed. We look at electrical here. This is a bid that I sent out that's also closed now. I had one bidder, so you can toggle between what the actual form looks like and the bidders, so the subs that you're sending these out to. You can preview what it looks like as well. So we'll come back to this in a second. This is a closed bid, so things are locked for editing. If I go back to bids, I'm going to create one from scratch here. You would create bid request. You can name it whatever you'd like. So let's say plumbing for this example. For this whole home remodel, I need some plumbing assistance. That will add it and then take me right to the form where I can fill out all the necessary details that my subs would need to know about this bid. So if we do the bid due date, let's say same thing as my client. I'm going to give them a week to submit bids. You can also send a reminder the day before it's due. Great email reminder for the subs to complete that haven't yet. The trade, we've got a lot of different options in here. I'm going to go ahead and I believe we have plumbing. You can also just type it and that will auto-populate. The project address, you can choose to hide or show, up to you. And then the project start date, say I'm going to start mid-October by the 18th. Scope of work, you're going to add in all details here. Plumbing for entire home remodel. And then again, you have rich text editing here for numbered lists, bolded lists, bold, italicized, underlined, and links. Any attachments, so maybe you have an additional terms and conditions or photos you'd like to attach or pictures of the current home, up to you, but you have the ability to attach files here as well. And then you want to preview this. You can also duplicate and edit or delete it if it's in draft mode from the actions menu. Click preview, and this is what it will look like when you're sending it to your sub. It has your company details up at the top, the date that it was sent, the date that it's due, prepared for, the bidder contact info will be here based on the subs that you send this to. There's your scope of work. And then the bid submission is what the bidder, your sub, will be filling out. Additional remarks, attaching any files, and they can, again, complete this on their end. So send that off. And I'm going to go back to edit to add the bidders here. Select bidders, and it's actually going to pull up the current subcontractors you have in your account. Right now I have an electrician and I have a carpenter. So maybe I need to add a new sub and add their email address, their company, say A+ Plumbing, their number, their trade, So selecting plumbing again here. There's the search bar up at the top. There you go. And then email is required. I don't have a real email, so I'll just make one up here. But make sure you have their real number and real phone number and email address so that you have that all saved to your subcontractor list in Houzz Pro, because that will add it to your sub list as well. Click add. And now I can choose them. Let's say my carpenter also does some plumbing, and so does my electrician. I want to send the bid to all of these subs. You can select. That will add them as the bidder. Let's say I forgot to add somebody, so I can go back and add somebody else as well. It's not going to show me those other 3 because I've already added them. But if you need to remove any, you just click the ellipses here. You can edit the contact, send one by one, or you can send them all together. It will send them individual emails, not all in the same email, or remove them if you added them by accident. All right, we're going to send this off. And it tells you bid requests will be sent via email and will contain the details you've entered. The link will allow the bidder to submit the bid or decline. Bidders will also be notified via text if they happen to have text messaging and the mobile number set up here. And it's easy for them to opt out. If they don't want text messages, there's an opt-out option there. And again, it'll send each of these bids to them individually, not on the same email thread. Then click send. This will change to sent once it's sent to all your bidders. Now, I've already done an example of me accepting the bid from the subcontractor side. So I'm going to switch back to our electrical bid. So you can go back to plumbing and click electrical. That's the one that's completed on my end. And I want to preview this so you can see what it looks like from the bid submission side. Oh, you go back. I think I need to actually look, sorry, in a different place. Let's go to electrical. Bidders, here we go. So I can click on this preview, I believe. Okay. Oh, let's see. Well, this is not working for me right now, but you'll get an email essentially when the bid is complete, and it will show all the bidder details so they can enter their cost, their scope of work, any other like additional details. They can attach documents as well, and it will show to you. You'll get an email notification letting you know what the bid is and who's accepted and who has not. So in this case, this is my electrical one. You know what? That's probably why. Here we go. I was looking at the wrong bid. That's why it wasn't working. So it's in the right place. Go to your bid. This is closed for editing because it's already been awarded. But here's the scope of work for this particular bid. And if I go to bidders, you can see that I've awarded this bid to this particular subcontractor, and I can view the bid from there. Apologies, I was looking in the wrong place. It was awarded. It was prepared for this particular sub. Here's all the scope of work. And then when they replied to me accepting this bid, they told me their total. Here's all the inclusions, exclusions, any notes, and then you can see the activity history on the bid as well. So really great way to manage all your bids in one place, keep them attached to the project, keep all your subs within Houzz Pro. And if we go over to our company menu and look at subcontractors, you'll be able to see all the subs that I have currently, including the one I just added.
Awesome. There's a question from Richard from the floor about how do you turn a bid into an invoice so you can track payment?
I don't think we have that functionality today. Cameron, please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm looking at these ones.
Well, it would come, so after you award the bid, the person does the work, and then they invoice you. Does that make sense? So I think that's our flow, Richard. So you would need to award the work to the sub, let the sub perform, and then the sub invoices you. And then you pay them. Then you pay that invoice. I don't. So
But
to Elise's point, I don't think
right, because
I need to confirm.
yeah, because the estimate, the document flow, that article that I was showing earlier, is the flow for communicating like with your client. So the estimates going out to your client. I recommend doing the bid to your subs. Well, again, it's up to you and how you operate your flow with your projects, especially if they're longer. But estimating to get a general approval of the project from your client first. And then once you have that approval on the estimate, sending out the bid to your subs for the different parts of the project you would need a subcontractor for, having them award the bid, do the work, bill you for that, which subs, they should be able to communicate that way through the platform as well. If they're assigned to a project, they'll be able to have a messaging section, which I can show you, and a subcontractor dashboard where they can communicate. Just like you have a client dashboard, the sub would have one as well. And of course, any team members invited to your project can see what they have access to based on their permissions. But the communication here, your subcontractor for any project they're invited to would be able to see this section as well, and their dashboard, which here's the dashboard, here's the subs I've invited to this project, and I can invite additional subs from here as well.
Yeah, so I just confirmed we don't have that just yet, Richard. So
Okay.
we are continuing to make improvements on bid management. We just released it like a couple of weeks ago. We'll continue building this out. Sounds like the post award user experience needs some work, so we'll keep digging in there. But Richard, if you have any other suggestions about how we can make it even better, we're all ears. I want to hear this stuff.
And I saw, Richard, your other question about should you create a PO, that the recommended document flow help article that I shared earlier, great resource because it also talks about purchase orders, but purchase orders are up to you. If I know a lot of our design community uses them more often, but from an estimate, oops, sorry, let's go back to that project. And you want to make sure your estimate is approved first before you move forward with a PO. So let's take this one that's been approved, but I haven't created an invoice from it. I personally recommend going in to an approved estimate once it's approved. And if you are using purchase orders, creating them from there, because you can select your vendors from here. Again, you can enter vendors or import them into Houzz Pro as well. And you can create separate purchase orders if these are all different vendors. So let's say this one is, I'm just going to select some random vendors here. This one is also Ganal Lumber. Maybe this one is the Appliance Warehouse. And this one is a roofing system. So let's say Lumber 2. So all of these items, because the same vendor is Ganal Lumber, all these are going to end up on one PO versus this one under J&J Appliance Warehouse is going to go to a second PO because it's a different vendor. So I'll create those. And purchase orders are ordering through your vendor, but you're not going to be billing the client through a purchase order. You can pay them directly if you have a vendor account, or you can log up the PO as billed. So let's look at the one for Ganal Lumber that we just did. We have the link document here. Again, why I recommend converting documents from a previous document because it's going to link them throughout the entire process. You can add the bill date, the due date for this, mark it as approved, billed, and you can, again, keep track of order statuses on here also. There's the website link, shipping date. I can add that in as well. So let's say I'm going to approve this. Okay, that's marked as approved. And I can change the status. Let's say I have ordered these items and then adjust the status from there, which this bleeds into like our selections tracker. I know we're having a beta test of our global selections tracker report, which I think those are going to be gone over in a different session, but we try to make everything connect to each other in Houzz Pro. So it keeps things streamlined and simple for you to go back to as needed. But POs are really a business choice. If you choose to use them to track your purchases or the bid route is probably more used by our build professionals, but it really is up to you.
So there's a couple questions on the floor from Michael and Richard. We are actively improving bids. We move super fast here. Like I mentioned before, bids
Yes,
and
that's why I
budget
talk
just
so
released.
fast.
Sorry. Bid management, budget management, those features just released like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so. If you guys are interested, or anyone here is interested in providing feedback, put your hand up. I want to talk to you. We will call you. We will get real deep with you. This is the way we make our software better from the perspective of people that are using it all day long. So we would love to hear from you.
Yes, I second that. And also in this help question mark menu under submit a support ticket, there is also an option to submit feedback. It's towards the bottom of the list. That is extremely useful for our product team to see that feedback directly from you, or working with Cameron and his team and providing that feedback. We, like Cameron said, we move very fast, and we really value our professionals' feedback and opinions on all these features because they help you do your day-to-day work. So we are very open to that. And then Anders, I see your question in the chat. Way to schedule projects. Yes. So for our schedule, we have the schedule overview under the search menu at the very top left. There's this schedule overview here. This will show all of your projects that have an open schedule. And you can see this by either the calendar view or Gantt view, up to you. To see the details though, you would need to click into the specific project. So I can do that from here. If I click on the whole home remodel for Bob Ross, that will take me directly to the schedule. You can also see that from the project menu under schedule, under the management section. So you can look at a glance, again, there's the Gantt view, the calendar view, and for the individual project schedule, there's also the list view, which is newer. So up to you how you'd like to format your schedule. I personally like the Gantt view. And then when you click into each of these items, let's go with let's see. There we go. You'll be able to see the title, the working days, who is assigned to the schedule, which could be anyone from your team members to your client, or subcontractors, which in this case, I do have my sub George attached to the schedule so they can see it. Any dependencies. So I need to make sure that tile ends before plumbing can begin. So you can set up these dependencies on each other. You can add tasks here, color code it as well. And then from the actions menu up at the top, if you are on our custom SKU of Houzz Pro, you have the baseline. So it shows if you're on schedule or not based on what your original schedule looked like at the start of the project. Very useful to see if you're setting up the right timeframes for projects of a certain type. You can also move the start date. So for some reason, I had the start date as tomorrow, but let's say the client actually needs to start on Monday. I can move the move the start date to Monday, and then also move the baseline with it, because it's not really your fault that the client needs to move the start date. Maybe something came up, kids started school, vacation, whatever it might be. I would select to move the baseline as well, so it shows that your schedule is still accurate. Click save, and that will move everything over, including all these dependencies. And then you have ability to save this as a template, manage templates, and then you can export the schedule as well. Baseline you can turn off or on, up to you. I recommend keeping it on. Again, if you're on the custom SKU, very useful to see if you're on schedule. Let's say I needed to move this though. Now it's going to show me how many days I am behind from this originally planned part of the schedule for plumbing. And then lastly, live and edit mode. These statuses don't mean that you don't need to have internet or data. You do need to make sure you're connected either to Wi-Fi or that you have data to be able to access Houzz Pro. We are a cloud-based software, so you need to always be connected to the internet somehow. But live mode means the schedule is live. So I just made this update to the plumbing section, meaning that anyone who shared the schedule, like my client or my subs or my team members, will get notified that that change was made, which is fine. But let's say you have a really long schedule and you need to make a bunch of different changes. I recommend changing the schedule to edit mode, and it'll give you a pop-up of what that means. But basically, it removes it from the client dashboard, and it also doesn't send notifications while you're making all these changes. So pausing, again, notifications and reminders, the schedule won't be visible to your clients or subs while in edit mode. Edits made are only visible to you and any of your team members shared on the schedule. So confirm, it tells you up here that it is in edit mode, and then all I have to do to switch it back, you just go back to live mode, and it tells you what happens when it goes back to the live mode. And I'm going to move this back to be back on schedule. There we go. All right. Any other questions on the schedule? Oh, I see one here. Is there a way to factor weekends in? Yes. We're looking into this right now. For some reason, it's missing from this menu, but normally under actions, you will see workday settings, and there you can change like the time and if it includes weekends or not. So yes, you can do that.
There was one last question from Catherine about schedules. When you go back to live mode, the client does not get notified, correct?
They don't get notified. It'll just be back on their client dashboard so they can visit it there. And if you made it, let's say you were in edit mode, you made some changes, you moved it back to live mode, and then I was like, oh, I need to change plumbing one day. If it's in live mode, they would get a notification on that plumbing change. But if you didn't make any other changes after switching it to live, they don't get notified via email or anything. They'll just see it on their client dashboard again. And I can show you that as well. If we go to the project, and then under management, you'll see the client dashboard here. And we should see the schedule right here. So if this was in edit mode, this would not be visible until it was changed to live mode. Good questions. Okay, just looking at my list here. Switching gears a little bit, going back to just talking about the estimating invoicing process, and of course, getting paid is one of the big pieces of today's segment. I can't stress enough how important it is to offer digital ways to get paid, especially with the new wave of homeowners being kind of that millennial group, expecting being able to be paid online or pay something online versus having to send a paper check. I personally got married about a year ago, and I had to send a lot of checks in the mail that I just wish I had an option to pay online. I know a lot of clients in this space feel that same way. So when you're in a project, there's going to be a lot of different call outs to set up online payments if you haven't yet. There'll be several banners. For example, if I go to the project details under info, if I scroll down to the bottom, there's an option here. It's throughout several other parts of Houzz Pro. There's many banners that call that out if you haven't set it up yet, including on a document. So if I go to one of our estimates here that we were working on, let's take this one. And if I scroll down to the payment schedule section, oh, sorry, you know what? I need to go to the invoice because I've already invoiced this. You'll see it on here as well. So if I scroll down to the payment section, there's the setup option here, but you can also go to the settings and then online payments. I do not have online payments set up currently, just because this is my demo account, but we use Stripe. They are our payment processor, very well-known global company. There's a fantastic, quick little over 1 minute video here about the benefits of online payments, but we have things like instant payouts now, lower ACH rates and credit card rates, very comparable to the industry, mobile friendly, so like that QR code I mentioned earlier, or being able to use tap to pay if you use your mobile device and have a digital wallet, very easy way for clients to pay you like on site, to tap their phone to yours, using a pay online badge on your Houzz profile. And the setup process is relatively easy. You just click continue setup, and it will actually take you through, show you what this looks like. It'll take you through this form where all these details need to match your tax documents with how you set up your business with the IRS. So the business type is either company or individual. If you're not sure, definitely look at that document. The business structure, there's a help article here with some best practices as well. Your routing and account number for the bank account you'd like to receive online payments to. If it asks you for both your employer identification number and your social security number, you do need to provide both. This is a change to like banking laws earlier this year. And sometimes it only asks you for one, but sometimes it does ask you for both. So if it asks you for both, make sure you enter both. Click continue, and then we'll do background verification, ensure that all the information matches your documentation. And once you're set up, you're good to go to start using online payments, and really, really easy way to get paid.
Liz, can you cover tap to pay one more time? Kelly wanted to see
Yeah.
how it works, or how do you do it, and what's
Yes,
the benefit?
absolutely. Let me actually pull up a help article on that because it's hard to show not from my phone, but
Yeah. Lydia, to your question about are there fees for online payments? Yes, there are fees. They're more or less the same as everyone else's fees. I'll put a link in the chat here laying out all the fees, because it's different by ACH, bank transfer, brand of credit card. There's a few different variants, but I'll put some documentation in here.
thanks, Cameron. For tap to pay, so for the iPhone, you can use this on your mobile device, a phone or mobile device. So you can use this on an iPad or a tablet as well. Contactless. So a couple ways. They can either tap their credit or debit card to your phone. So if they have this little icon, the like speaker icon on their card, they can tap that when you open up the document, and they can pay that way if the card supports contactless payments, which most cards these days do. Or they can tap their iOS, so it does have to be an iPhone or an iOS device, with a virtual wallet to your phone. This includes Apple Pay or Google Pay. So your client would need to have an iOS device, but you can have like an iPhone or an Android or Google phone. It doesn't matter on your end, it's just the client's end. So they hold it up, tap it, just like you would do it at a card reader at the grocery store or any other place that accepts tap to pay, and it will pay that either estimate or invoice, whatever the document is that you're billing the client for. So simply open the document, click on a scheduled payment, and select tap to pay. This will open it up on the client's iPhone and prompt on your device. Then your client taps, again, either their card or their device, and the payment will be sent to you directly. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe tap to pay is available in Canada, but Canadians currently have credit card and not ACH payments. But Cameron, please correct me if I'm incorrect about this being available to Canada.
I know, I'm looking through our documentation somewhere. Oh, hold on a
Okay.
second. Good to see you, by the way.
But good help article in general on the various ways you can get paid with Houzz Pro, including tap to pay, but also online payments, the QR code that I mentioned. There's a lot of detail in this article. Okay, I'm just checking for time. Still got about 25 minutes. We're good. Any other questions on online payments, though, before we transition to the 3D tool?
There's always questions on this. I'm surprised there's nothing in the chat window. So maybe we answered them all. I say let's keep moving. We got 25 minutes left, and I think there's still some things on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, the last thing I have on my end, just to recap, we've covered estimates and our AI functionality. We've talked about assemblies and bids, invoicing, setting up online payments, and we reviewed the schedule really quick, as well as all the resources, again, in the help menu within Houzz Pro, including contacting our technical support team. Last two things are takeoffs and 3D. So I will start with our takeoff tool and head over to that same project we've been working in. And then open up our takeoffs, which is going to be right under estimates. All right. If you haven't uploaded a plan yet, this page will be filled out if you have done takeoffs before. You can see the plans you've uploaded and marked up plans in this folder. You can also see that in your files and photos within the project. I have my takeoffs folder right here, any before photos and other things I've uploaded, but the takeoff folder is automatically populated for you if you've done takeoffs. So let's go back. And you can upload plans from here. or you can go straight to the takeoff window where you'll be able to do all the marking up of your construction plans. Biggest benefit of takeoffs is not under ordering or over ordering on material, making sure that you, based on your construction plan and having it be set to scale, that you are ordering the correct amount of material based on the space, and you're not hurting your bottom line by having waste, too much waste, or having to wait for product if you under ordered by accident. So I've already uploaded a plan here, and you can upload from here. If you need to add an additional plan, it'll pull right from your files on your computer. If you have multiple plans for this one project, you can also come up to the top here with this little down caret, upload from here, or toggle between if you have multiple plans. So to start, you should upload a PDF of your construction plan, ideally from your architect, your designer, from the city, wherever you get those construction plans from, and set the scale. We do have preset scales down here in the page settings in the bottom left. So you can see the scale ones that we have preset, like 3 inches equals 1 foot, 3/4 inches equals 1 foot, etc. We have a whole list of options here, but if none of those really work for your plan, I recommend setting the page scale, and you have the line width also. So when you start marking this up, you can choose how thick those lines are. I normally just stick with 1, but up to you. And then you're going to find the scale. Gives you the instructions on doing this. So measure a known length on the page. The longer the better for accuracy. You do need to know what that length is. That wouldn't be something our system gives you. You should know that based on your construction plan. Double click to finish and then input the length. So let's do an example here. Find scale. I'm going to go ahead and use this garage wall. This is one of the longer walls on my plan. So click once, drag and drop to the bottom, double click, and then it will give you the measurement to enter for how long that wall is. So let's say it's 20 feet and 6 inches. And then you set scale, and now it's going to show that 3 inches on the page equals 20 feet and 6 inches in reality on this plan. So now every other measurement that you do will be set to scale. If you forget to set your scale and you measure a few things, I believe it does retroactively update those measurements once you set the scale, but I highly recommend taking this step first before you do any markups on your takeoff. All right. You're also going to notice Automate, our AI friend, is here again. You can turn this functionality on or off for takeoffs, but really great. It'll highlight for you based on the takeoff page that you're on if Automate is accessible for this. And based on the tools that I have here, Automate is available for the polygon tool. So if I select polygon, which is essentially measuring a non-square or rectangle room, I can look at the bedroom here, and you want to select your group first, which I'll do. Let's say I'm working on flooring. I'll just pick, let's see, Berber carpet. It's going to highlight for me that measurement automatically when I'm using the Automate tool. And that AI functionality, because this is machine learning, it's constantly learning. So every time one of our professionals uses this, it's training the system, becomes smarter and smarter to recognize more and more complex plans. If you happen to see Automate not available for the plan that you're using, it's likely that it's a little too complex right now. But again, as we're using it more, it's going to continue to grow and learn. So the more it's used, the better. But that's what that looks like. So let's say I'm going to take this. You just click once and it will add that to your measurement drawer. There's the square footage. And now I know how much Berber carpet I need for bedroom number 1. The other benefit of this measurement drawer is renaming things, just so it's easier to see after you're done measuring a lot of things. I normally like to rename it whatever the room is. Let's say carpet. And that will stay there. If you needed to delete it, you can go back to the measurement drawer, hover over these ellipses, and there is a delete option. There's also layers. If you're doing like multiple measurements over each other, you can hide different layers. You can duplicate, move them to different categories, or convert to the perimeter of the room if needed. Okay, let's turn Automate off for a moment so I can show you the manual way to use some of these tools. Starting with your groups. Grouping is essentially going to be the product that you're measuring for. Flooring, outlets, toilets, sinks, tile, anything that you're measuring that you need to order for this project. So you want to make sure your groups are organized. Again, that categorization, super important. You can see here I have a lot of these categorized already. If I'm adding a new group, I can add the group name. I'm just going to name it something funny right now, but you can name it whatever you'd like. The category, I have flooring here. You can even get more specific with categories. Maybe you don't want just general flooring, but you want carpet, hardwood. And you have the different like SKUs that you use from your different vendors. You can categorize these however you prefer. I have a more basic one, but you can do that too. And then I'll change the color just so it shows up in a different color on the plan. And then I always recommend, if this is something, a product that you're going to use regularly with other clients or within this project more than once, make sure that you add 2 favorites, because that will make sure, number one, you can add the unit of measurement. So let's say this is square feet, create that group. And then if I go to manage favorites here, I'm going to see under flooring, there's that carpet that I just added. And I do need to add the price. So that is the other big call out here. Make sure that you're adding the price to your groups. Otherwise, when you convert a takeoff into an estimate, there will be no pricing attached. We do not fill the pricing in for you. So let's say the carpet is going to be $100 per square foot. It's really expensive carpet. I'm going to delete this one too. And now I have that dollar amount in there. You can do the same thing for counts. So here's a count. I can also add a shape, and you need to add the cost here as well. So adding to favorites is a really easy way to come in and change things that need to be updated based on if pricing updates with the vendor, or you giving them a discount, whatever the situation might be. And then down here, there's the save and close. Okay, so let's start with the rectangle tool. I'm going to measure this living room here. Let's say I want to measure for hardwood flooring, which I have a group for already. You'll go to the group and make sure you're selecting the right flooring that you need to measure for. So we're going to do engineered hardwood. With the rectangle tool, it's measuring square or rectangular spaces, so not odd shaped rooms. If you come over to each side, here you go, sorry. Click once, and you need to click in each corner. Let's see, that group isn't working. Let me try this one. Yeah,
There's a really good question from Catherine about favorites.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like everything should be a favorite. What should we
yes.
not mark as a favorite? What would not be a favorite?
I honestly can't think of anything you wouldn't add as a favorite. I do it every single time I add a new group or count. So I would recommend doing it every time.
So if everything's a favorite, then nothing's a favorite? Just leave it all unmarked? What happens when you favorite things?
It adds it to essentially your menu, so you can come and change the group that they're in. If you added it to the wrong group by accident, or decided to, like I was saying earlier, instead of just having flooring, maybe you have carpet and then you have hardwood. You can also delete from here and adjust the pricing and change the colors. Again, that's more getting into the weeds of the details, but I don't know the answer to the first part of the question. Like, why would you not add it to a favorite? I personally add everything to a favorite, but it's easier to edit from here.
Yeah.
So that's my preference. Yeah.
So Catherine, congrats. You stumped the host and you stumped the MC. You win the prize. We can all just go home now. Just kidding.
And I'm going to refresh this because something strange is happening with my measurement tool. Okay, that wasn't measuring before. So let's start again with the rectangle tool. And then I'm going to select just one of my flooring options. Let's do this one here. So when you click, I don't know why this is not working. It should, when you're doing the rectangle tool, you can click at each corner and it will measure the space. I don't, again, for some reason that is not working right now, but it will measure at the very end. You double click and it will add the measurement in for you, and it'll add it to the measurement drawer as well. Let's see if the polygon option will work here. Oh, you know what? It's been a long day. It's because I was doing it incorrectly. So let me start again. Just delete this one really quick. Okay, apologies. So for the rectangle tool, again, select your group, which I'll go back to my flooring. Let's do this hardwood flooring. Rectangle is easier because you're looking at an even shaped, not odd shaped space. So you're gonna pull from the corner and drag and drop to the right-hand side and then release. And that will add in your measurements here, and you'll see it in the measurement drawer as well. And again, I recommend renaming this hardwood, just so it's easier to reference once you're done with the takeoff. And then polygon is next. So this is the way I was showing you originally. So let's go to polygon, and let's say for the bathroom, and if that happens to you, just double click and it'll go away. But let's say I want to measure this space right here, but not underneath the tub or underneath the sink. So we'll use polygon because it's not going to be a perfectly rectangular space or a square space. I'll go back to flooring, and then I do want to measure for tile. I'll click, and this again was the way I was trying to show you earlier. Click, and you just click around where you need these measurements done. Let's say there's a little lip here, so I need it out like this, and then back this way. And then at the very end, double click, and that will highlight that space for you for an odd shaped space. And this one here, rename this as well. Perfect. Okay, the length tool, really great for measuring things that need to go on the wall. So whether it's paint, wallpaper, let's say crown molding, trim on the bottom, even like things like insulation, you can use the length tool for. So you click length and again, select your group. I'm going to use wallpaper as an example, or wall coverings rather. That's where I moved it to when I did this grouping. I have my textured wallpaper here. And let's say I want to put wallpaper on the dining room back wall, but there's also a door and a window here. I don't want to wallpaper over those. So when I'm here, I want to make sure that I'm measuring across. Finish that measurement. And then I can click in from here. And this needs to go, rename this. This needs to go up the entire wall. So that is what this cube function is for. And this cube function would also be used if you're measuring for insulation or drywall or things that need to go inside of the wall. You have the dimensions here, which I can add in. And there's also a multiplier. So if this is going, for example, on the other side of the wall, it's on both sides of the wall, you can multiply the measurement times 2. And when you add in the dimensions, it should also add that to your measurement. So it's showing not only the length across the wall, but I also need the height. And again, in terms of insulation, drywall, also the depth inside of the wall. So hovering over this. So this is a good call out. Height, depth, pitch can only be updated for individual measurements if they have been set at the group level first. So I would need to go to the group and select that to do the cube function. I can show you another example though. Let's do paint. Say, I'm going to do the same thing here. Double click. If I use the cube tool, I need to set these at the group level, but you would be able to add the dimensions here as well. Can go back to that also. So textured wallpaper. Again, when I'm setting up a group, that's where I'm running into an issue. I do a new group, categorize it, and then add to favorites. And the measurement would need to be set up at that level to be the right measurement, to be make sure that it's being cubed. So like the square yard option, for example. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat.
Line snapping. Do we have that?
We do have that in the 3D floor planner. I don't think we have that in takeoffs at the moment.
I think you're right. Yeah. Sorry, Oliver. Is
Yeah.
it something that's important to you to be able to draw right angles and whatnot? And
Or
if it
like
is, we
odd
can, yeah, exactly. Line snap.
corners. Yeah.
Exactly. If it is important, we can request it as a product enhancement.
Yeah, that's great feedback because I know a lot of our professionals use it in the 3D tool. So we can definitely submit that product feedback on your behalf. Okay, additional tools are, for example, the count tool. So you can use this for items. So not like measuring square footage, but items you actually need to add into the plan. So for example, sinks, if I need to add the number of sinks, there's a farmhouse sink option here. I can also create a new count. Or electrical, I have outlets in here. Say, I'm just going to put the random places, but let's say these are all places there are electrical outlets within this plan. A couple in the living room, a few in the dining room, definitely a couple in the kitchen. And you can add them all throughout where these need to be applied. And then that will add your count, the number that you have here, and that will multiply it by the cost for each of these, which you would again edit in your manage favorites if needed.
What do you
Okay.
do with outdoor plans? I know you can build outdoor features and patios in their 3D tool. How would it
Mhm.
work in takeoffs? Would you have to have plans that cover the yard?
Yes, you would want to make sure your plan, whether it be separate or attached to the whole home, showcases the whole yard. So you can measure in the way that I'm doing for the interior, for the exterior as well. And then I think I saw another question, the deduct tool. So I'm running in, yes, I wanted to show you that. It's basically segmentation where when you draw a line using the length tool, it's not showing that right now because I didn't set this up with that function turned on. But if I set up a new count, let's try a different group. Just do another wallpaper example. And I'll put that in wallpaper. Just do a random color, add to favorites. So this needs to be in feet initially. Create. And then I'm going to go to the measurement drawer and delete this textured wallpaper just for sake of conversation. So we can do that again. And then there's my wallpaper group. You can also add assemblies from here. I forgot to mention that. But assemblies, if you're on Pro and above, are included in takeoffs as well. I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to do the segmentation, but basically I can explain it. When you draw the line, there will be an additional box here next to new group that says that you can separate based on doors, windows, wall break. Like for example, here, maybe I was just doing paint on this part of the wall, but I measured all the way to the end. You can add breaks, which essentially deduct that part of the measurement from the length measurement. I apologize, it's not showing for me at the moment, but that is a functionality that you have when using the length tool to account for things like doors and windows, or wall breaks or anything like that where you don't need the material placed. And then let's see, there is another deduct tool. Let's just try this. Bear with me one moment. I'm going to draw the line here. So you can deduct. This is something new we've added with our normal deduct tool. Previously, you were only able to deduct like in square or rectangular shapes, but you can choose between the two now. You can either do a rectangular deduction or a polygon deduction. So again, aside from the wall that I'm having a little bit of an issue with showing you the segmentation for that, if we're doing the normal deduct option and it's a rectangle, let's say I needed to remove this portion of the fireplace, you just hold at the start, drag and drop and release, and it will remove that piece from the measurement that you did previously. But if it's not a perfectly square or rectangular area that you need to deduce, you would click the polygon option. And let's say like I needed to do this doorway. We are working on a functionality to make it so it can be curved. Right now it is a straight line. Double click on that. But you can click around it essentially. Let's say I needed that deducted because I was going to put something else there for flooring. Reduce at the end or double click at the end and that will remove it with the polygon tool as well. But I promise you, we do have the segmentation for removing it from the wall. Unfortunately, I don't know what I'm doing incorrectly right now, but there is that functionality when you're using the length tool, and it will be in the menu bar, like in between the new group and the actual group that you're choosing. Okay. What time is it? Coming up close to time. Okay. So the takeoff tool, you can also, again, you can add assemblies as well. When you're in the measurement drawer, you can click between what's on this takeoff and all your different groups or counts you've created or from your assemblies that you have made. And then when you're ready to turn it into an estimate, you can do so. Here's all the markups. This is why I recommend renaming it. It's just a little easier. And then you can create an estimate and either duplicate and edit this or start one from scratch. And that will add all of the items you just marked up on your takeoff plan into an estimate that then you can send off to your client for approval based on what you know you need to order per your construction plan. And again, it being set to scale. Okay, in the last couple minutes here, I'm gonna breeze through our 3D floor planner. This is a very robust tool. There's a lot you can do with it. You can access it from the project under the planning section and either create a floor plan completely from scratch. So it'll give you just a blank page with the 4 walls and you fill it in. You can 3D scan. If you are an iPhone user, we have an amazing LiDAR, like laser tool through the 3D section on the app where you can scan the space, make sure the room is like well lit. You can see the corners well, but it works very accurately to pick up the plan itself, and then it will import it into Houzz Pro, and you can add furniture and paint and wall colors and all the other parts of the home once you're at a computer. Very popular tool though on the app. You can also upload a 2D plan. So if we did this, similar to uploading my takeoff PDF, I would upload a PDF here. I'll use that example. I have this floor plan available. You want to select, if it's multiple pages, this page that you're going to be uploading. It'll take a minute. And then again, same as in takeoffs, you want to make sure you're setting the scale. So I'm going to move the scale to what we did previously, which was 20 feet and 6 inches. Then click done. That will set the scale for you. And then the drawing, you want to make sure you trace the walls. You go around and trace them. Okay. Oh, turn that back on. You can also rescale it if you need to, but you can draw the walls using the draw tool. Go around and you see how it's also giving you the dynamic measurements as you go. This has the snap feature, the 3D tool that someone was asking about earlier. So you're going to draw all the exterior walls around the entire plan. And then double click at the end, and that will give you the plan, and then you can start marking it up. So things like windows and doors, you do still need to account for those if you're using the 2D trace. Then you can come in and add our flooring, whether it's wood flooring, tile, carpet. This all pulls from our Houzz Marketplace and our trade program. Adding labels to the rooms, commenting, which is a newer feature, great to comment back and forth between your client and your team. You just tag them and you can see who's shared on these as well. The outdoor tool is right here. So the only thing about outdoor, and I'm going to click done, we're done tracing this, is you want to make sure that you have the outdoor space drawn before you start using the outdoor feature. Let's say we're going to draw this on the very end of the plan. Gives you those nice trace lines. This is going to be your outdoor space. Again, you're going to click on this little tree icon, and you'll see all the different options you can add from pavers, ground cover, deck, and pavement. That's just the outdoor surface library. Again, you can select materials. And then for additional outdoor items, we're going to go over to this menu here, and we have generic products. And if you scroll down to outdoor, this is going to give you all of our outdoor generic items that we have today. Barbecues, chairs, vertical slats, fencing, fire pits, and we are building this out constantly. We have a lot of requests for different outdoor features that our 3D team is very well aware of. So this is a feature that we're constantly enhancing and takes a lot of product feedback and moves quickly to getting those introduced, which is always great. Structures, you can add additional structures here. So additional ceilings, you can add ceilings, which is great. This is a newer feature. Adding doors, windows, staircases, wall partitions, wall openings. And this is a nice new addition too. If you have something that you'd like to be in the 3D floor plan, it's not here, request a product update. Right here, this link will allow you to submit product feedback directly to our 3D team who manages this feature. And then last thing on here is adding floors. We have not had the capability to add floors until recently, which was a big request from our professional community. You're able to add up to 6 floors, and you can view 1 floor at a time. I know we've had this request before to work on being able to view the whole home, for example, in the dollhouse or a walkthrough view. Currently, you would just be viewing 1 level at a time, but you can add multiple levels to one plan. Okay, I know I like breezed through the 3D piece really quickly, just to show you a few more things. Generic products, like I was showing you for outdoor, has a lot of other products in it, placeholder products like bedroom furniture, curtains, holiday decor, even down to like home office, musical instruments, you name it, it's in here. You can use our source tool as well, which pulls from our Houzz marketplace. And the beauty of using this functionality, if I go back to our floor plan view, which I'm going to switch over to see in color, I'm going to add, let's say, a rug. I'm just going to pick this first one here. And in dollhouse view, let's see. There we go. That will add the rug, and we can see it both and move it. This is another functionality that's newer. You can edit and move it around in the dollhouse view, not just in the floor plan view. Resize it, rotate it, but it's great to show actual products in the space, and it gives you that dynamic measurements with how far it is from all the walls based on where you place it. And then that will be in the walkthrough view as well. Need to go inside the plan. There we go. And there it is right in the center of the space. Over there in the corner. Uploading drawings, that's what I showed you before. So tracing a floor plan, if you don't use the scanner tool or build it from scratch. And then we also have these camera views, which are nice to create photorealistic renderings of your plan once it's done. So let me look at a plan that's more built out than this one. Let's look at this backyard. Here's a good visual of an outdoor space. And then if I want to do a camera view of this, I'm going to create a new camera to, again, create those like real life looking photos from 3D. We're in camera mode right now. So this is camera 1. It does take a couple of minutes to load the image, but that's the first camera. I can exit out of this and it'll save that camera for me. I can rename it, delete it, or update this image. Let's say maybe I want to do like dollhouse view got to exit camera mode first. And I want to view like that instead. I can change the view and then go back to cameras, do a new camera, generate the image. View composition is what it looks like here. There's some tips on best practices for generating these images. Click generate. And it's called camera 2. We can rename it. And again, it does take a moment to generate because it's creating like really hyper real photos from the plan, and it will live in your files and photos in your project as well. Just a couple really great features newer to the 3D tool. Okay, now we're a little over time, so I'll stop there, but any final questions?
Nothing from the floor. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who took a lot of time out of your day and stayed
Yes,
with us
thank you.
through the end. We got through a whole lot of content. I have one final poll. It's basically, did you like this? How can we improve? Here's the poll for you. So please fill that out. Just give us a yes or no. So we can make these sessions better for you next time and for everyone who might be right behind you, starting with Houzz Pro or learning Houzz Pro. Yes, Kelly, you'll get a recording after this. Same answer for you, Luis. You'll get a recording. And with that, we will end the session. Thank you, Luis. Thank you to each and every one of you all who came today.